Welcome to the OK Let's Learn podcast. This is two podcasts in one. One where we dive into tons of great books and stories, and another where we dive into tons of interesting topics. My name is Kevin O'Keefe. So today, let's learn and read Book 8, Episode 1, The Unlikely Tale of Chase and Finnegan by Jasmine Warga. Hey, this book was just published not too long ago. This episode is coming out in May of 2026. It has been critically acclaimed. That's why I got it. That's why we're reading it in class. And before you continue in the podcast, the idea here, in case you haven't listened to some of my book club podcast episodes, is this is commentary. This is going along in the journey with the book, episode by episode. What's good about the book, what's bad about the book, what you like, what you don't like, plot, characters, themes, secondary characters, everything. It's a book club. That's the idea. Enjoying books that you read on your own. There's only so much joy you can get out of it. But when you go and talk to other people, we will be having our book clubs again for another summer, and we'll have plenty of more books that we will be able to read together. Hey, like I said, drop this episode, leave it for later. What you want to do before you listen to this episode is go get this book. You want to read the first 35 pages, basically it's chapters 1 through 6. And I will say this up front. This book has got a big hill to climb in terms of my enjoyment of it. I've heard so many great things about it, but I wasn't a fan of One and Only Ivan. And for the most part, I have not been a fan of books that have animals as the main characters. It's just a big lift for me to go there to kind of really get engaged and connect. What can I tell you? Hey, bottom line, if it's well written, you will feel the emotion, you will be rooting for the character, and the miraculous journey of Edward Tulane, if I could feel it, really one of my favorite books of all time. And if I can root and, fall in love with a porcelain rabbit, I think I can do this, certainly with one of the characters in this story being a dog. Chase is a baby cheetah, and Finnegan is the dog. So let's get started. Let's dive right into this. Here's some of my commentary for page 1 through 36. I'll say it right up front. Not the last chapter, not chapter 6, but up until the beginning of chapter 6. And listen, chapter 6 is nothing to write home about. You do get a little window into something that's going to happen with Chase, and that's disturbing, possibly losing his mother. I think we can all see this a mile away, but here's the rating. I gave the kids 1 through 10, 10 being the best book, 1 being the worst. The highest rating I got for 18 kids plus myself. The highest rating that a student gave it was a 7. We had multiple 2s here. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 students gave it a 2. The average was a 4, and that's exactly what I gave it. Listen, my initial take is it's just moving too slow. I understand that we've got only the first 6 chapters, and we've got, looking here, it looks like we got 36 chapters, 37 chapters in the whole book. I get it, we're just beginning, but as I've talked about with many of my episodes, in many of my books, you got to grab me. You got to hook me right from the beginning. And it's moving too slow. And I think that's what most of the students agree. I have second graders. So immediately, basically, we have what's interesting in terms of a technique here that the author's using. The dog clearly we're assuming it's Finnegan. Finnegan, the picture of the dog and the picture of the dog in the chapters, it's the same. And if the title is Chase and Finnegan, Chase being the cheetah, this has got to be Finnegan. But the author has not introduced us to this dog being named Finnegan. It's just the dog at this point. And what we're learning is that the dog did something to upset his owner, Samuel. Apparently Samuel is some type of musical performer, someone that plays guitar, a musician. And he comes back from the shows, and Finnegan is again looking forward to seeing him. And I guess what I'll do, I'm not going to refer to him as Finnegan. I'll just refer to him as the dog, because that, at this point, is all we know. But what we do know that is fascinating, that I asked my students, the author writes that the dog is guilty. The dog is asking, will Samuel forgive him? The dog in the beginning of the book is out and about, lost, gone from his home in the woods, and he's scared, and he's just thinking, he's wishing that he could be back with his owner, Samuel. Now, as we go along with the early part of the book here with Chase, it's just about Chase being a baby, literally just experiencing the world, the sky, everything around her. She's got all these questions that she's asking Mom, and it just is, not much is happening, which again is disappointing. As we go into chapter 3, we have the dog, and he's out in the woods still. He's lost, and apparently he comes upon some other type of animal that ends up ripping off part of his ear. This chapter ends clearly in some interest, some suspense here. And just so you know, we go back and forth with chapters between Chase and this dog. Every chapter has the same picture, whether it's a chapter that's focusing on Chase, it's the same picture. Each chapter, the same thing with the dog, it's the same picture. And each of the chapters are numbered, which is always good. And each of the chapters have a title, which always gives a little insight as to what you're about to read. I think that's always a good strategy. For example, chapter 1 was called The Woods with the Dog. Chapter 2 was called Sleepy with Chase. And again, this is all about waking up and experiencing the world, being close to Chase's mom. Chapter 3, which we just wrapped up, which was called Danger. Of course, that made sense. And now chapter 4, Chase's chapter is all about, it said that the title of the chapter is Play. We get introduced to this human, of course, as Chase is referring to this person. It's Basma, and what we basically learn is that Chase's mother, as she relays to Chase that, yeah, she was rescued by humans. Humans are good, and don't be afraid of them, but yet Chase is bothered by the fact that even though you're born, apparently you have good insights and you can figure these things out. She's bothered by the fact that they have this rope around her mother's neck, right, to bring her out. And of course, she explains, well, this is a leash just so that we're safe and this and that. But Mom consistently talks to Chase about the fact that the humans take care of me. They will take care of you. Please understand that, Chase. And here and there, going forward with this book, and I try to do this with each of my books that I offer commentary on, there's certain sentences sometimes you have to quote verbatim from the story, and I'll do it here because, again, for my younger members of the audience, you look for clues. The author specifically puts certain words and sentences together because they're intentional. The author wants you to realize, yeah, what I'm not going to come out directly and tell you. You have to infer it, which is a smart guess. So I'm convinced on page 18, and maybe the author doesn't intend it at all, but towards the end of the page, down towards the end, it says, Chase's mom is basically saying, instructing her all about the world around her and guiding her. And, teaching her, and she's asking about the sky. And does the sky ever end, Mom? No, the sky is infinite. You can always, quote, you can always look to it, Chase. It will guide you, unquote. How many times do you often have a father, mother figure early on in a book that ends up somehow, some way, something happens to them, but there's little clues up front that says, don't worry, you will be okay. Look to this North Star, right? Cinderella's mother very famously said, have courage and be kind, instructing your young children that, yes, here's your future. This is how you're going to handle it. And underneath it, we're sensing, if she's not around, right, she's under the care of humans and you're not particularly able to control your own fate, this is how you're going to take care of your life. Now we segue again into the next chapter, chapter 5. It's called A Stranger, and sure enough, yes, now the dog ends up meeting a human. Apparently this guy comes in and he picks up the dog. All during this time, the dog is thinking about Samuel and where is he now? Has he forgiven me? And one great quote from this chapter is fantastic. I will say this up front. I don't think the writing is off the chart here. It's pretty basic. There's nothing that just shouts out to you like, wow, what a great line. But this one was particularly good. Again, he's reminiscing about what it was that he did that maybe got Samuel upset. Will he forgive him? And then at the same moment, he's in pain with his injury to his ear. Quote, remembering what he did feels even more painful than his wound, unquote. Oh, boy. So let's address this, because we talked about this in class. What could it be that the dog did to get Samuel angry? Because, again, he's asking for forgiveness. I mean, we really don't have too many clues. The only one that we picked up that I talked to my class was he referenced how he would come home late at night often and get angry. So I can't recall if there was any drinking that had been going on. But again, you're a musician. Maybe you can infer that, unfortunately, Samuel's coming home grumpy. And one wrong move by the dog and, he's out the door. It's unfortunate to think about this, but especially depending upon the setting, if this was a long time ago in rural communities, and we don't necessarily have a sense yet when this is taking place in terms of, is it now 2026? Is it 20 years ago? Was it 80 years ago? We don't have that sense yet, or at least nothing that I've picked up off the top of my head as I'm offering the commentary here. But what I teach my students is to look at the evidence and make a good guess as to why he could be out on his own. Did he run away? Was he told to leave? Was it accidental in terms of what happened? The fact that he got loose, was that accidental? One student mentioned that maybe he chased a squirrel and then he got lost. But another student, I think, was more on the target of, maybe he bit his owner. The owner got mad. Samuel got mad and told him to leave, got angry in the moment and chased him out the door, and then he got lost. Another student brought up the fact that, this one I thought was very interesting. The dog mentioned that he loved chocolate cake. And this was when this human is coming to see him, and he's smelling chocolate cake and a bunch of other scents on this human. And so one student said, well, maybe he, had this great experience because he did say he loved it, but maybe dogs are not the sharpest tool in the shed sometimes. They eat what they shouldn't be eating. So this student said, well, maybe he vomited up the chocolate cake and it got all over the place, maybe on the rug or whatever, but also Samuel got upset by that and told him to leave. And along with that, one other student said, well, yeah, bottom line, he did something to anger Samuel, and maybe it was chewing furniture, maybe it was caused property damage, and I'm so in tune with that. I said, absolutely, positively. We get so angry with Jasper sometimes, he just cannot control himself. So, listen, the fact that he continually keeps going back and saying that I hope he forgives me leads us to believe that, yeah, he did something. And somehow, some way, I think overall the class doesn't think that he accidentally just kind of got lost. It almost like was Samuel in a fit of rage, kicked him out of the house. We're saying figuratively, but, maybe unfortunately, literally, he kicked him out of the house. But ultimately, as we wrap up chapter 6, this man, we can sense, is going to take care of the dog, and the dog starts wagging his tail as the chapter wraps up. And then, to wrap up the podcast on our first episode on Book 8, The Unlikely Tale of Chase and Finnegan, what we definitely have a window into now. As we go and finish up chapter 6, the title is The Leash. We have the fact that the humans are taking Chase's mom. Chase's mom says, don't worry. And then Basma, who is this human, ultimately comes out. Chase wants to play with Basma, and hopefully it's going to be okay. She's talking about basically attacking her curly hair. But here's the thing that, again, purposely, the author put this in. I'm going to quote from the book. Basma says, don't worry, Chase, basically. Hey, I know you're going to miss your mama. Quote, she will be back soon, comma, hopefully, unquote. She will be back soon, hopefully. Are you kidding me? This is shouting to the top of the rafters. Why is the author putting hopefully in here? If in fact, that something could happen, of course. And I think we do know that something could happen here. So, friends, thanks for taking this journey with me on our first episode of Book 8. Hey, let's do this. Come back next time, because, again, this is a book club, right? You're going to be reading on your own, and we'll come back here. We'll offer commentary. We'll agree, disagree, what's happening, what we like, what we don't like. But, hey, we are on page now. We are in the beginning of chapter 7. So read through chapter 13 for the next episode. This will be going through page 83. So basically, we're going from page 36 through 83. That will be the next episode, episode 2 of The Unlikely Tale of Chase and Finnegan. Reach out to me at kevmok21@gmail.com. We have a Facebook group. We have a YouTube channel. And love the ratings, as I always say. Love the reviews on Apple Podcasts, any platform of your choosing. We're on Spotify. We're on Overcast. We're on iHeartRadio. We're on most podcast apps that you have out there, especially Apple Podcasts. Hit that plus button in the top right-hand corner. That will subscribe you to the podcast. You'll get all new episodes on your phones every time they're released. We're trying to get out an episode every couple days. So until next time, have fun and keep learning.